Hello, everybody. No hello tonight. It is the 20th of August, 2023, Sunday night here in the United States, 10:21 p.m. Central Time, and I am just getting on to do an update for everybody on the West Coast. Let's go ahead and turn on a display capture and bring you up to speed as to what's going on. A 5.0 to 5.5 earthquake, it actually came in at 5.5, was downgraded to 5.0, struck in Southern California, right next to where the fire broke out last night. And my video from yesterday, I took down today. I deleted both my videos today, and 1 hour after I deleted my videos, the earthquake that we warned for in the video hit. Now, I warned yesterday, I put out the earthquake warning, if you want to call it that. It got held all night. Somebody flagged it or something, and I woke up this morning with like 30,000 views or something. Anyway, so I took the videos down. Here's the earthquake epicenter, and it's listed as Ojai, California. Now, last night, see where it says New Koyama? Here, just to the west of New Koyama, well, they got oil pumping operations all the way across the hillsides here with pipelines that are out at the surface. They're rubberized pipelines that are at the surface connecting between wells. 5,500 acre fire broke out here last night. It shows as 0% contained, but it hasn't grown in any size, so I guess it burned out. Anyway, it burned across this area, either next to it or through it. That's last night. So yesterday, I put out a video telling everybody to watch for a 5.0 earthquake as the hurricane was coming up to the north, and as areas get inundated, as we see with these large tropical systems, earthquakes strike below them. There's an electrical differential between the storm and the plate. See earthquakes of significant size break out down below them. I warned for that yesterday. It hit today. I'm not bragging or anything. I just have to tell you that, okay? But the spot where the quake hit, it's right next to where the fires broke out. And I will measure just so you can see, again, how far are we? We're 50 miles? 50 miles. Of all the places in California, and it's been many, many months since we've had 5.0 level activity down here in Southern California. Now, the spot where the quake struck, let's just zoom in on it, see if there's anything of significance here. Oh, look, the FM radio transmitter up on the hilltop here. Wow, KMRO radio station, I guess. Is that a tower up there? Oh, you betcha. We got dishes. We've got towers. Ah, wonderful. Isn't that just great? What else do we have up here? Looks like we've got some big, nice big house. Oh, wow. Hey, look. It's the NEXRAD RADAR station. What are the chances of that? Down below the location. Down below the location where the NEXRAD radar is, the high-power microwave transmitter here. Down below it, the 5.0 earthquake strikes. I wonder if there's anything else here that's nearby that's worth mentioning. We already have some microwave towers. We already have the NEXRAD radar tower. Is there anything down here on the foothills worth mentioning, or back on the back side of the foothills over here? Ah, you betcha. Right next to it, we've got an oil pumping operation, a bunch of drill points that go down into the crust with metal shafts that go down into the crust, almost like large VLF antennas if you really think about it. But anyway, I digress. We get back over here, we've got the NEXRAD radar transmitter. Notice how it's not labeled. They don't have a label on it, while they are labeling the KMRO FM transmitter next to it. So why does this matter? What would you do if I told you that I told everybody to watch out for this? Earthquakes below the transmitters that are controlling and steering the hurricanes. I used this as an example a few days back when I talked about this live on my stream, and yesterday in my video from yesterday I even brought it up. And I gave examples of in the past where we've seen earthquakes next to the transmitters that are controlling and steering the storms. Here's one example over here. Over at Lahaina, right next to it, over here on this island, which is the next one over to the west-northwest, Molokai. That's where the NEXRAD radar transmitter is. And the hurricane down here to the south, I brought up that they were probably steering it, probably because I didn't have evidence of it, but that when they do that, earthquakes tend to strike next to where the transmitters are controlling the storms. Then that 4.0 earthquake happened, and you also got your fire outbreak. Now, we got a fire outbreak last night in Southern California, right down here, 50 miles at the Los Padres National Forest, and on the other side of it now, New 5 has struck at the transmitter. At the transmitter directly. And I could probably measure that just to see how far we are, but I mean, it's close enough. We're on the same hilltop. A half mile? What is that in feet? 2,700 feet? Kilometers? 0.8 kilometers? Meters? 800 meters away. Yeah, they're related. Now, how does it happen? Well, radio waves scuff their feet across the carpet of the atmosphere. And you're all familiar with what can happen when you scuff your feet across a carpet and it builds up a charge inside of you. You go touch something and the built-up charge comes out of you with a little shock or lightning bolt that comes out of your finger because you've stored up that energy inside of you like a battery or a capacitor. Then it all comes out at once when you touch something. Well, the radio waves pretty much do the same thing, scuffing their feet across the carpet of the atmosphere. And that charge builds up in electromagnetic field lines around the radar and goes back to the transmitter, back and forth, bouncing off of it and coming back. It's electromagnetic. Can't see this with the human eye. Well, that energy gets translated into DC power. It gets absorbed into the plate, and it becomes from AC, radio wave, to DC, direct current, down in the plate. Gets absorbed by the Earth. Well, the magnetic field lines of the Earth. Gets taken down into the plate, around the transmitter. Then we see earthquakes. Once that electrical energy goes down into the plate, precipitates an earthquake because electromagnetic energy in the plate is what causes earthquakes. Very low frequency waves. That's the cause of earthquakes. In case you didn't know. All right, anyway, back to it. So, big earthquake for Southern California struck down below the NEXRAD radar transmitter, right next to where the fires broke out last night. And as the hurricane is pretty much directly over the area. And I say pretty much because it broke apart. It did. I mean, if you go check the storm now, I'll just go show you really quick, in case you haven't seen it. It did some really weird, we had some weird stuff go on last night. Watch this. Watch as it's coming to the north. Watch as see this? See this straight line? Well, it's not exactly straight. There, now it is. Okay. Let's carry on. Poosh. And then that's where our earthquake hit, right about there, as it was passing over the area about 4 or 5 hours ago, somewhere right in there. So, boom. Now the center of the eye of the storm is somewhere out over central eastern California. And we could go look at the true color images on this because this is actually pretty interesting, too. See all the smoke up in the northwest? Look at that. All that smoke is... And look at the Midwest. It's like a big... Well, actually, it's rotating this way, but it's actually going to the right. It's a high pressure system, but the low pressure systems around it are going the opposite direction. So we have a big high pressure bubble here, and then we have low pressure going up and around it this way. So while it's rotating one way, it's sucking it in from the other. Do you see that? It's going to take the whole thing in. Let me try and turn that. There you go. Do you see the rotating motion on that? It's going to be pulling all that smoke into the moisture that's being lifted all the way to the north and over to the east at this point. You see it? Okay, anyway, that's all going on while we've got the seismic taking place around the rest of the planet. And look at this. You ready? Take a look at the 5.0 level activity in the last 48 hours going out across the Pacific. We start in the West Pacific, 5.0, 5.0, 5.1, 5.0, 5.4 in the middle of the whole mess. Then another 5 to 5.4. Then another 5. Take a step down, 5.2. Then down to a 4.9 to 5.0. Then another 5. And going across this way, same size, 5.4 and a 5.4. And then South Sandwich Islands got hit as expected. If you watched my update yesterday before I deleted it today, it's now been hit. Now, that's the combined total. Down here, 5.6, 5.7 is the combined total of these two 5.4s. So take these two, add them together, that equals what just struck down at the tail end, down on the one side. And then on the other side, it's all 5, stepping stone path going up and around. To see the stepping stone path, though, I have to back it out almost a planet away. Notice the spacing on these. This isn't me cherry-picking where to report the quakes. These are the quakes that hit in the last 48 hours that are 4.9 and greater. So this shows the very low frequency wave spread from where it came from in dark pink, and then the lighter colored earthquake struck all in the last day and a half, spreading out from it. So going up, out, across, and over, and back over across the Pacific plate. Dropping off the same sized earthquakes all the way across the plate, within a hair of a point of each other. So what size wave do you think it would take to go all the way around the plate? A very low frequency wave, where the peaks are thousands of miles apart. One peak here, another peak there, another peak there, another peak there, another peak there as the wave is spreading. And then it gets over here, it gets to the transmitter. It strikes down below the freaking transmitter. It came... I didn't know that until I just looked it up now with you guys, so I am shocked to find it as I zoomed in on it. Of all the places to strike below. Dude, right next to the fire, right below the NEXRAD. It's like a message from God. All right, now, let's take a look at the rest of the earthquakes that struck, because this is significant what's going on. We could talk about the United States and the rest of the plate. I'm looking for seismic increases to take place in between our current sets of earthquakes. So you can see, for instance, like here's a set. 1, 2, right? And then here's a set of 3, or, well, more than a set. A cluster of 3. It's like a triangle shape with on all sides. Here's another set in between them. So what we do is we look between our current sets of earthquakes for the next round of earthquakes to break out. And we don't just draw a straight line between them. We go around the bends of the plate. So this means we have to watch, for instance, New Caledonia for something slightly bigger than what's on both sides. We add them together. Add the quakes on both sides, you get something bigger in the middle. It's like a 2-arm scale or a wave, where on one side and the other we have the waves now, and in the middle they're going to combine. Come up with a new wave or a new quake in the middle that's bigger, or the combined total of both waves on both sides. Anyway, so we're going to see a path of at least, it looks like 6s breaking out between each set of 5s. Take the next magnitude up. So if we take these 5s, add them together, plus all the activity around it, we get to 5.5 to 6.0. Same with over to the west. It's all 5s all the way across the board. So it should mean that we should see in the next few days, in between all these 5s, and I quite literally mean in between, so we find the middle points between each set. 1, 2, 3, 4 different 6s should be coming across the West Pacific in the next several days, in between our current sets of quakes. Then, in the middle of the whole hot mess, we see one big quake by the end of this coming week. So it'll be a spread of 6s most likely in between, or upper 5s. I mean, don't fault me, quote unquote, if it's 5.9s or something. But so 6s in between each set of these 5s, and then in the middle of everything, which you can see it, if all these 5s were going around the plate and connected with a line, we would just find the middle point between all of them for the new quake to strike on the edge of the plate. And the cluster is over here, so that puts us right down in here. Indonesia again. Indonesia should be seeing the large quake this week, and it should be right at the juncture of all the plates where the arrows come together, in the middle of the whole hot mess of the West Pacific. Okay? I know, it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, we're looking at the middle of a huge disturbance that's taking place now. There's something going on down below the plate that's coming up down below, and it's spreading out all the way over to the United States at this point. Electromagnetically, it's striking down below the NEXRAD radar, which is just mind-blowing. Now let's quickly talk about Asia. Look at the big cluster of earthquakes in China, all the way across it, and are all about the same size. 4.6, 4.7, 4.6, 4.7, 4.7, 4.7, 4.7, and a 4.8. Or no, wait, I'm sorry, it's a 4.6 now. So isn't that a lot of 4.6s and 4.7s in a big ring? And then a 5 in the middle of all the 4.6s and 4.7s. If we threw a bunch of rocks into a lake and all the waves combined in the middle, that would be the combined total in the middle. And notice, it's also mixed in with a 4.6 and a 4.8. I'm thinking, over to the west, it's pointing like a big arrow. Do you see it? Like a big arrow where the arrow tip comes all the way out to here. One more time. You see that? It's like an arrow shape in itself. That's why I have arrows there to begin with. This has happened before. This whole cluster is going to add up. Think of this like a bunch of waves trapped in China right now. And let me take you over to the USGS plate boundary map to show you where I think it's going to go. So like a big arrow A bunch of earthquakes across here in the last 48 hours, pointing to the west out to Iran. A bunch of waves, if you will, trapped and bouncing around in here. Now that's going to make its way out over to the west, and look where it's going to go. You see it, right? It goes over to the west. It goes over to the edge of Iran and Turkey. Plate boundary then goes up into Italy and makes a T intersection all the way out at the mid-Atlantic ridge. And that's what we're going to look for this to happen. We're going to look for all this to add up, go over to the west, strike at Turkey with a new 5.9 to near 6, and the spot in Turkey should be right back east, I think, east of where our big one took place several months ago. This will be more like at the Turkey-Iran border going into Turkey. I hope I got that right. And it should be in the 6.0 level, or upper 5. Then as we go out into Italy, let's go back to the USGS plate boundary map. We go out of Turkey, we go up into Italy. We're going to look east of Italy. That puts us right back here, Croatia, Bosnia, as far south as Albania. In the middle, it's Bosnia. So right here, and you see where all the rings are overlapping? That's where we watch. That is Bosnia. It's on the north side of Albania. Size magnitude should be 5.0. Should be about a step less than what's in Turkey. And let's go back over across to Central and South America now. So we have 5.4 coming across on our arrow, and it's pointing over towards our other arrow. That goes down to our other arrow. It's like a Rube Goldberg reaction or a domino effect, but it took 2 days to happen. Went over to the east and down to the south. The combined total of 5.4 plus 5.4 is 5.6. How do we add them together? A 5.4 plus another 5 equals 5.5. You take it up by a point each time you add on another 5. It takes 10 of one earthquake to add up to the next earthquake. 10 5s equals a 6. 10 6s equals a 7. 10 7s equals an 8. Going down the spectrum too. 10 1s equals a 2. 10 2s equals a 3. So anyway, we take two 5s and add them together. And if this one's a 5.4 plus another 5 takes it to 5.5. And then we add on the other 0.4, which is another half magnitude, and we're getting to 5.6. It's a little complex on adding magnitudes, but it's not that hard to understand. It takes 10 of one earthquake to equal the next earthquake up. So if we add two 5s together, it equals 5.2. All right? You got that, kids? I had to come up with that myself. That's not in any textbook. Oh, and it will be in the future, but I had to come up with that myself. How do you add up magnitudes on both sides? Well, how many earthquakes does it take to equal the next earthquake? This is like how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Okay, now for Central America, let's just take a quick look and see what's going on. How about the same sized earthquakes that were going on over in China are going across Central America? 4.7, 4.7, 4.6. And into South America. You see it, 4.5, 4.5, 4.4. Again, that's the same size that's going across over into China. Over here on one side, and over here on the other. And make note, one more thing I'd like to show you. Look at China and look at the Caribbean. Going over to China this way, and over into the Caribbean this way. Wouldn't you say that's about the same distance out, like two wings extending out on both sides of the Pacific? It is. Two adjacent plates over, too. So you got Taiwan on one side, you've got the Cocos Plate on the other, going over towards Mexico. And then going out from there, you got China, and going out from there, you got the Caribbean. And it's the same size movement going on both sides. What does that prove? It proves that in the middle, something's emanating out from over here, going out this way, and going out this way. Something that's dropping off the earthquakes along the way. It's not that earthquakes are just random. They're caused by something, and that something that's they're caused by, apparently, is a traveling wave of some kind. Electromagnetically induced. Hence the earthquake. Below the freaking transmitter that's steering and pulsing the storm to begin with. Dude, what are all the weather professionals going to do when they find out that Dutch Sense is telling everybody that the earthquake that just struck Southern California during the hurricane or tropical storm hitting was induced electromagnetically by the weather radar that it struck below, and that a electromagnetic discharge happens between storm and plate normally, And then you add in man-made systems, 750,000 watt microwave pulsing, and you can get an earthquake down below the location. How to make an earthquake 101 using radio waves broadcast into the sky. Guess what? It converts into DC power when it goes down into the plate. And that's not up for debate. Those are the scientific findings. Efficiency scaling, conversion from AC radio wave to DC power once it gets absorbed by the Earth. And now let's go look up the earthquakes in the United States, shall we? Because we do have a few things to talk about aside from a noteworthy earthquake down next to a radar station, down next to an oil pumping operation, down next to where the fire started yesterday in California where the hurricane is hitting. There's more things going on aside from that. That should be newsworthy alone. One more time. An earthquake struck next to where the fire that I reported on last night, down below the radar station, which I am the radar guy who got in trouble for telling you about weather modification using radar. How about that? Oh, and a forecast was issued for this yesterday, which I deleted today because I got super, what they call butthurt about the response to my warning. Because I don't live out there. I do have family out there and got a little angry. Now, let's go look up the earthquakes now that we've talked about California enough. The last day and a half, we had a 4.0 earthquake up here to the north. When that 4.0 earthquake struck, I told everybody to watch down to the south. Now, look where we are. We have a diagonal line of earthquakes going from this big stack down to our current swarm below the radar station next to the oil pumping operation and fire. So what's up here at this big stack? I mean, if this spot down here is a radar station and a pumping operation, surely we couldn't have the same thing up here, could we? At the geysers of California? Yeah, it's a pumping operation. It sure is. They've drilled it for steam to get steam to turn turbines where they're generating electrical energy. So they have electrical generation. Again, what did I tell you about electricity in the plate? See where it says turbine services? And all over the hillsides here, you've got your pipelines. The pipelines go to drill points. The drill points are actually injecting water to then steam it off to bring it up to the turbines to provide power. Now we're back to this power thing, this VLF, very low frequency electrical energy in the plate. We also have drill points there nearby. So we have drill points, we have power generation or power in the plate, and we got a big swarm of earthquakes there. We have a line of earthquakes that goes from there down the San Andreas. Goes over into the valley slightly, and there's something over here in the valley I think you would like to see at Cantua Creek and to the south. So why are we jumping off the San Andreas and going over into the valley? Well, this location has something in common with the other two locations that I just showed you. So we're jumping off the San Andreas. We're going over here. Look at this. See this? What are those? Huge solar farms that they've put in out in the fields out here to replace the crops. Now, right next to the big solar farms right here are our drill points. Thousands of them for oil and gas. Just take you across the hillsides here. Every one of these little black dots is a different oil or gas well. And there's thousands of these. They go, and I'm not exaggerating when I say thousands. Look how many there are. It's not a well storage yard either. That's where they have done the drilling. So it goes up here to the north, and then they've done all this power generation now that they're doing out here. Our earthquake next to another power location, next to another set of drill points. So how many is that now? I mean, it's enough. We go from one swarm to the other, and then right in the middle, we jump off the San Andreas, go over to the valley, and there's another power generation station and drill point. So I'm going to say it, the VLF, very low frequency, which is what the power is in your power lines, is inducing earthquake activity. VLF can be induced by microwaves scuffing their feet across the carpet because that electricity that comes off of there, the free ions scuffing their feet across the carpet, turns out to be very low frequency as well, even though it's microwaves that are causing that scuffing. Okay, anyway. As we go further to the south, you're going to see there's a line of earthquakes again down across Southern California, across the San Jacinto Fault at
The Elsinore Fault, mainly the San Andreas on the south side, is somewhat quiet. But with a 5 here, right here, I would just go ahead and tell everybody down here at the border, you should probably keep watch down at Salton Sea Volcano, where they've also drilled in and are doing power generation for an additional 5.0 earthquake in the next few days. So we'll watch it for a week, but I would say within the next few days, far southern California going down to Baja is also going to be seeing this additional 5. It'll probably be 2 5s in the course of a week. Then we should look for mid-range 4s to upper 4s, almost record-breaking earthquakes, to come over to Oklahoma and Texas again. I say almost because they had 5s before, but it's enough to get your attention, knock things off shells, and cause damage. We should look in Texas and Oklahoma. I'm going to warn Dallas. We actually have to warn Dallas-Fort Worth. Yeah, I know. Upper 4, near 5.0 level activity coming in on the edge of the craton. You're already moving over at the pumping operations to the west. You're already moving down to the south. You're in between another cluster to the north. What's the halfway point between this cluster and this quake down here if you just go straight between them? Where does that put us? See where the arrow is. You know it's there. Okay? Oh, if you don't, that's Dallas-Fort Worth. East Coast should also be on watch this week now. Now that a 5 struck over on the west side of the plate, you can certainly expect the East Coast to light up with earthquake activity. Mystery booms and rumbles are about to return. And they'll blame it on everything from sonic booms to weird events. They'll blame Bubba with Tannerite. They'll do anything except for admit that the plate is moving up there because that causes real estate disinvestment and for people on the East Coast to freak out. You shouldn't freak out. It should be in the 4.0 level. And where are we going to see it? Let's go find our spot to watch. Let's see. If we go from this earthquake here in Illinois, at the pumping operations in Illinois, the fracking ops in Illinois, and we go down around that U-shaped bend down through Mississippi and Alabama, and then up to the quake up in New York, Pennsylvania area, well, we would find the halfway point between those two, go around the bend of the plate there. That would put us somewhere right in here. Wouldn't you say? If we straighten this out into a straight line, it would be a lot easier. But anyway, halfway point comes in somewhere right in here at Virginia. So Virginia, North Carolina is going to need to be on watch for rare 4.0 plus activity. And then far northeast up here at New Brunswick. So New Brunswick, Maine border, Quebec, southeast Quebec needs to also be on watch. 4.0. Southern California 5.0 due. 4.0 is due over on the East Coast. And near 5.0 due at Dallas. Going into Oklahoma. They'll probably feel it across the whole area. Who have I left out? The Northwest. Man. There's so much to talk about. Okay. Coming in on the Pacific Northwest side. Well, first of all, there's so many earthquakes there. In California, it's kind of hiding it. See this? Big old line of earthquakes going across Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, going over to the east past Hanford Nuclear Waste Storage Facility, then above the magma chamber at Yellowstone, then over to Yellowstone Park directly. Now, if you were to look at all the... Oh, dang, you can't even see it. Now you can see it. Last 2 days, look at the last week. It's forming like an arrow shape in its own right, or at least an oval, and it's pointing over to Yellowstone, which then points down to Colorado, which then goes down to Texas, which then goes across and up the East Coast, following the craton edge. Now, this is important because the craton is going to be moving exponentially more this week, and everywhere where you currently see 3s, you're going to be seeing 4s. Hold on. Let me get the craton diagram on here. Everywhere where there are 3s, we are going to be seeing 4s up in the Northwest. So it's not just going to be down in Texas. This is the whole plate is shifting. Hence the fires, hence the cover stories, hence Hawaii, hence over in Spain. We're in a serious state of flux, apparently. And you're certainly not going to hear professionals talking about this because that's the last thing they would ever tell the public. This gets to like the movie 2012 where they keep it hidden from the public because they're worried the public's going to freak, because the public does freak. The only time the public doesn't freak is when I tell the public what's going on for some reason. I'm serious now. It's not that it's something to beat my chest on. It's not good. But I can go ahead and tell you the world's melting down. Where everybody's like, oh, did you hear it, Dutch? Oh, looks like it is. Wow. But meanwhile, if you hear it on the news, everybody starts running around like their hair's on fire and freaking out. I'm telling you what it is. The plate's shifting. That's what had to have caused. Everybody's thinking DEWs, directed energy weapons, for these. Now, DEW can induce plate movement and storm activity, but it's major DEW. I'm talking major, not just from a NEXRAD radar station, and not just from a place like HARP. We would have to go the next level up, like what the Europeans just built. In case you don't know, they built five different HARP arrays over in Europe and Norway. And it's working on FM frequency modulation. It's 200 FM. If your car could dial into 200 FM over in Norway, you might pick up some weird swishing sounds on the and tweaking sounds on the radio. But they banned FM radio over in Norway when they rolled out the EISCAT, the ISCAT 3D, which is working on FM, 200 or so FM. But it works just like HARP. And they're heating areas over the North Pole, but they have 5 of them. And that's just the Europeans. That doesn't count what the Russians and the Chinese have. God knows what they have. I don't know. Do you? You know they're not just going to sit back and let us all do it, are they? Right? So there's a lot of stuff going on that could be DEW induced, but it would take massive power. Massive. From a far distance. Which everybody said couldn't be done, but we found out that it can. If you didn't know that, whole nother story on that. Getting back to the quake, getting back to the event. Look, you got a fire breaking out first. You got an incoming storm last night, and you were warned for this. But unfortunately, my video got blocked last night. Held at 50,000 or 30,000 views all day and last night. That was really disrespectful, whoever did that. And I'll tell you what. There's more people in a small town. There's more people in my hometown of Ferguson, Missouri, where I grew up. You didn't know? Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm from. I am. Grew up there. Anyway, there's more people in the area around my hometown than saw the warning for California last night. And that's after the fire broke out. So I was a little miffed to find out this morning that the video was held. And even more so to find out that 1 hour after I delete the video out of frustration, the quake hits. People telling me not to delete my videos. You're right. It's good advice. It is. It is good advice. I'm saving this as a video now, and we're going to put this out to the world. If you live in California, here's the deal, guys. I've published the method of how to forecast an earthquake. Step-by-step method. You can repeat the method. It's not a secret. It's not that you need me here to do this. You can do this yourself. We have kids that can do this. I could explain it right now in this video. I could explain to you how to forecast an earthquake. You want an explanation? You could follow these steps and be able to forecast an earthquake. You look for deep earthquakes first. Watch for a flurry of deep earthquakes. They're raised high off the planet here for easy identification. The more deep earthquakes you see raised high off the planet, the more you know that something's going on down below the plates. Something's getting ready to come up. A vibration, a disturbance is happening down below the plates when you see a bunch of deep earthquakes. That's first cue that there's going to be a shallower, larger series of earthquakes up above. Like these are like people lifting on something that's broken, and it's going to break fully when they lift on it. So anyway, up above, in between the deep earthquakes, that's where you watch for shallower, larger earthquakes. This is the first step of earthquake forecasting. Anybody can understand this. So you see a bunch of deep earthquakes, you look between them, and you're going to see a shallower, larger earthquake pop off in between them. And it's going to pop off in the middle, in between them. But not just as the crow flies, not just a straight line in the middle. You have to follow the bends and cracks and crap in the plate. So turning off that stupid craton diagram, you have to follow the bends and cracks in the plate. And we can get back to the USGS map to show those to you. So when you find an earthquake, you find your area in between the deep earthquakes, and that's the new middle point to break with a shallower, larger quake. I mean, that's pretty easy to understand, isn't it? Deep earthquakes lead to shallower, larger earthquakes. It doesn't matter their distance apart. So you would look all the way up here and all the way down here, and then find the halfway point between the two, and that's where the new break takes place. And guess what just happened today? The white-colored earthquakes. So the deep earthquakes happened yesterday in pink and in light pink. Today, breaking off in between them, a series of new 5s. These are deep 4s, and in between them now shallow 5s have popped off in between. And they follow the principle of a standing wave if you want to get really technical on the spacing of the quakes. That's easy, right? Watch for deep quakes, shallow or larger quakes next to them in between them. Doesn't matter the distance apart. That's why you got to keep track of where the deep quakes are. Now you can get down to a finer point. You can find the halfway points between your current sets of earthquakes or your clusters. So you got a big cluster here in Alaska. You got a big cluster here in North Japan. All right, well look, in between them, a deep quake. Well, guess what? Something's going to come up in between all 3. And it's going to find the triangulated middle point between all 3. Guess where that is? Well, you can see it. It's right here in this big open spot. We call that a silent zone. And the silent zones tend to be the ones to be hit next. So this is all real easy to understand if you really think about it. I mean, literally, we're just finding the halfway points between our current sets of earthquakes. And you take the current size of the current earthquakes around it into account, you add them together. Add them together, you get something greater. And something greater strikes in the middle. Time frame usually takes days. Never takes more than 14 days, never takes more than 2 weeks. The spread, the wave, spreads out in that time, and it drops off more quakes. Okay, so basic principles are simple to understand. You find your halfway points between your current clusters of earthquakes, and those are the new spots to watch. You see a big open area that has no earthquakes in it, and it's sandwiched between, 3 or 4 areas that are moving on a 5.0 level? While the middle point is under serious stress with multiple waves passing through it. That's going to be the new place for it to break, the combined total of what's on all 3 sides in this case. Right? Papua New Guinea. Seismically prone, already well known. Or not Papua New Guinea, that's Indonesia. Sorry, Indonesia. I mean, this is Papua New Guinea here, but it all comes together right here, and that's where I warned. Okay. I want people to be able to understand this on a simple level. It's not super complex. There's no mathematics involved, except for maybe if you want to add the earthquakes together on both sides to get the magnitude in the middle, but it's not like there's equations. I mean, there will be equations. There will be extreme eggheads who develop equations, standing wave equations based upon this. And it's an electrical frequency or an electrical wave that's going through the plate, so that kind of reduced down our mathematics that have to be involved with that. This all gets way beyond what I could do. I'm just the unlucky guy who noticed that the earthquakes are somewhat equidistantly spaced across a huge distance. And when I told everybody, the professionals said back to me, "You must be faking the earthquakes. You're making it appear that there's an equal spread of earthquakes across the plates, that it's just chance and coincidence," after they realized that I wasn't faking the quakes, and I provided all the links to each earthquake. Right? So I showed everybody already, and I've already put out the directions of how to do it. I got a little miffed last night, after the fire, and people didn't... Oh, and in case you don't know why I got miffed last night, another point on this, you do need to know this. After I shared the fire information, they haven't updated it since. They put an update out at 10 p.m. I shared it, and that was it. As soon as I shared it at 10:04, it was done. Not the fire. The fire still went on. We watched it live on Weather Satellite. But after I shared the link, it made me look like a liar. When they didn't update it, I said it was spreading and all this other stuff, and it did. Again, we watched it live on satellite. It's not up for debate. But if you go check the page, they stopped updating it on the fires as soon as I shared it. And I think that's not an accident. I think that's deliberate. And that bothers me. It should bother you too. And that's happened many times on many other things that I've shared. So it's getting to be an oddity that needs to be addressed. The whole shutting down the links of the things that get shared by my account when I share it out. I don't know why we would not update on a big fire. But there it is. It was across an oil field. And when I found that may have been what did it. I'll never know, though. Anyway, This update's a little serious. I'm not exactly my jovial self tonight because, dude, if you guys only knew what it's like to be beat up by Big Brother, so to speak. It's not trolls and comments that I'm worried about. A lot of people don't know. The mainstream media, Reuters came after me. Canadian National News smeared me on their nightly news. France 24 came piling on. Carnegie Endowment for International Peace piled on. This is all in the past several months. Yeah, the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace said the Dutch Synths Group was involved with was the Chinese hub for the Chinese government to spread COVID misinformation. That's what the Carnegie Endowment said about me and my group. It's been a rough few months. I got a little down, but I'm here. I'm not quitting. I'm never going to quit. God led me on this journey. I'm a high school graduate. I believe in God, Jesus. That upsets you? I don't know what to tell you. I used to be a punk rock atheist, and I don't know. Pat me on the back for that, I guess. If you hate me for it, I don't know, man. The point is that I've made some discoveries that have been a little bit upsetting. I'm not going to quit or ever stop. And they're never going to be accepted, so we're in a rock and a hard place, no pun intended. And on that note, let's go ahead and sign off on out of here. You guys got an earthquake plan? If there's anything that I could do, it's to make sure that everybody listening, no matter whether you like me, don't like me, never heard about me before, or you're a daily viewer, will you please develop an emergency plan and kit? I'm not selling any of that stuff, but it needs to have a change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight, batteries, first aid kit, sanitation, medicines if you require it, important documents. Look, when the people had to evacuate in Hawaii, they literally had 1 to 2 minutes or less. Some people had 5 minutes. But 1 to 2 minutes, I mean, again, this has already been tested. They've done videos on this. They give people 1 to 2 minutes to run through their house and grab something, and they end up with a pair of sunglasses and a can of green beans, and that's it. They forget about their pets even sometimes when you give somebody 1 minute to go through their house and get something. So you guys need to have a plan, and it needs to incorporate in earthquakes, severe weather, fire evacuations, that kind of stuff. You need to think about it. Nobody's going to do this for you. They're going to come up and wipe your nose for you and, lead you by the hand through this. There's something you're going to have to do on your own. You're just going to have to think about what you would do during a big earthquake or during a fire, and do you have a plan? I would recommend stocking up on some stuff, but the emergency kit is going to get you through the first few days on anything. So the emergency kit is essential. The long-term food, the long-term water is a good idea to have. If the last few years didn't teach you anything about being stocked up, I don't know what will. Certainly not a guy on YouTube telling you to be stocked up. All right, okay. Light note here. We're ending on a positive note. The countdown is on to the Dutch Synths store, where we're going to be selling my man-made rock geopolymer that I've made my own form of stone, if you will, following the ancient Roman and Egyptian methods. Yeah. It's really awesome stuff. And then we're also going to have artwork and Dutch Synths collectibles, everything from the genetics that I bred during lockdown to Duchess is going to have her heirloom seeds of lettuce and tomatoes and all that kind of stuff for people who want to do gardening. We're going to have all kinds of... she's got a whole boatload of artwork that she's done and that I've done, but her artwork is way better than mine. Way better. So we're going to have all that on a site here on DutchSynths.com in the next few weeks. And it's been a long time since I've ever sold anything, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, much love to all of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for putting up with me. If you heard my rant earlier, I was very upset. Sometimes I should just turn off the microphone. Sometimes I wish that you guys all had a collective button you could press to shut it off. But then the trolls would manipulate it somehow. Somebody with 1 million channel points or something, right? You can super chat. If you super chat over $1,000, you get a microphone control for a minute or something. Anyway, that's awesome. You guys are great. Thank you for putting up with me, and I will be back if anything else significant takes place. one more time to the people in California, guys. Much love. I'm not going to lump you all together. I got a lot of haters out there in particular. And professional haters, not like trolls and comments. I'm talking about like professors and agencies, that kind of stuff. They've all piled on in the past, issued statements about me and that kind of stuff. So I want you to know that I will be here to report on the quakes. I'm not going to bail on you or delete my videos anymore. Last night's videos, it was up all night. The video was up all day. It was up till like 3 o'clock. If you didn't get the warning, it was literally up till the hour before the earthquake. So I don't feel like I cheated anybody by deleting my video. It's not like anybody, would even listen anyways, right? I'm being too harsh. I got a lot of comments from people and things left from people who told me thank you and that they were able to share the warning, but they came back to see what, people were saying and they saw the videos gone. But I'm glad that you guys did get the warning. Next time I won't delete it, okay? Peace out.